The exploration vessel Astral Reach glided silently through the Veil sector, its hull catching fragments of starlight like drifting embers. Lieutenant Arden Vale had spent 6 months aboard her, long enough to memorize every sound the ship made, but not long enough to stop noticing the alien woman who commanded half its operations. Commander Saris Calith of the Elendari Ascendancy was impossible to ignore. Arden didn't know whether it was the way she walked, smooth, balanced, predator graceful, or the shimmering bioluminescent sigils that flowed across her skin like constellations rearranging themselves in real time. Maybe it was her eyes, pale gold with drifting flecks of light that moved like falling stars whenever she focused. Or maybe it was simply that every time she entered the room, Arden forgot what he'd been doing. He sat in the crew commons now, pretending to review security logs while covertly tracking Saris across the room. She moved with quiet efficiency as she picked up a nutrient tray, her long, opalescent ears tilting with subtle micro-expressions he was only beginning to understand. Even mundane movements looked deliberate on her. "You're staring again," said Lieutenant Jamal Rivers, plopping beside him. "I'm observing," Arden corrected. "Right, observing the way she breathes. It's my job to evaluate cross-species behavior for security risk." And is her everything a threat to you?" Arden scowled at his datapad. "You wouldn't understand." Jamal grinned. "Buddy, everyone understands. Half the human crew stares at her. You just do it the longest." Arden tried to look away, failed, looked back as if pulled by gravity. Saris's skin glimmered faintly when she thought, the sigils shifting like auroras under her skin. Elendari biology fascinated him, but she was different. Her presence tightened something in his chest he couldn't name. Jamal nudged him. "You do know the Elendari can sense where attention is directed, right? She probably knows you're looking at her." Arden froze, and across the room Saris's head turned, slowly, precisely, gold eyes landing on him with quiet inevitability. His stomach dropped. She held his gaze for 2 seconds, unreadable, then returned to her meal. Jamal whispered, "Oh, you're dead." The next few days were worse. Arden tried not to stare. He failed constantly. Their departments overlapped during joint tactical security drills, and every time Saris spoke, with that calm, resonant tone that somehow sounded like tempered glass, Arden's attention snapped to her. He wasn't subtle, and she knew. Everything changed during a post-mission briefing. Officers filed out after the captain's concluding remarks. Arden was gathering his datapads when he felt someone standing directly in front of him. He looked up. Commander Saris Calith towered gracefully above him, expression calm but edged. "Human Arden Vale," she said. He swallowed. "Commander." Her eyes glowed faintly. Her sigils dimmed to deep blues, uncertainty. He wasn't sure. "There is inquiry I must make," she said, "and protocol requires honesty." Arden nodded, bracing himself. "Why," Saris said with perfect clarity, "do you look at me so often?" The room went silent. A few Elendari officers turned, their ears lifting in sudden attention. Humans paused awkwardly near the exit. Arden could lie. He could claim curiosity about Elendari biology or professional observation. But something in her gaze, beneath the calm facade, looked almost wounded. So he told the truth, "Because you're breathtaking." Her sigils erupted in a shock flare of white light, then pulsed crimson gold in patterns Arden had never seen. Several Elendari gasped. One dropped a datapad. Another whispered something urgent. Saris's breath hitched sharply. "You," she managed, voice trembling with contained energy. "You have spoken a vow of choosing." What?" Her eyes widened further. "Arden Vale, what you just declared in my culture is the first step of binding union, equivalent to choosing a life partner." He blinked. "I just said you were breathtaking." "Yes," she whispered, as if the word itself was dangerous. "And you did so publicly, with witnesses, with sincerity." Her sigils brightened painfully. "This is declaration." I didn't mean." Saris stepped back as if physically struck. Officers whispered urgently. Captain Ria Solari's office was normally a calm, ordered space. Warm lighting, soft hum of environmental systems, a viewport overlooking distant nebulae. Today, it felt like a tribunal chamber. Arden stood at rigid attention, palms sweating. Across from him stood the captain, arms crossed, expression sharp. Beside her waited Elendari cultural liaison Marin Thale, his tall frame wrapped in ceremonial indigo cloth. His bioluminescent sigils moved in slow, troubled patterns. "Sit," Captain Solari ordered. Arden obeyed. "Explain," she said. He tried. He described Saris approaching him, her question and his answer simple, honest, stupid. Marin's patterns shifted abruptly. "Human Arden Vale," he said with pained patience. "The words you spoke constitute the Elendari vow of choosing. To declare another breathtaking in our tongue, equivalent phrasing signals recognition of their soul light. It implies intent to bond." Arden's stomach twisted. "I didn't know." "Your ignorance does not erase the declaration," Marin replied. "Elendari culture binds spoken truth. Casual flattery does not exist among us. To say such words is to reveal your heart." Captain Solari leaned forward. "Do you understand the political disaster we're sitting on? Commander Saris is one of the highest-ranking Elendari officers ever assigned to a joint mission. Her acceptance or rejection of this vow could influence alliance perception for decades." Arden pressed his fingers to his temples. "I didn't propose, I just reacted." Marin sighed a soft harmonic exhale. "Intent is irrelevant. Elendari law acknowledges sincerity, not motivation. If you felt what you spoke truly, then the vow is valid." Arden stared at him. "So what happens now?" "Two paths," Marin said. "You may formally withdraw the vow, declaring it an error of cultural misunderstanding. This, however, is grave insult. It implies your words were hollow. Commander Saris would be obligated to answer with a challenge of honor." "What does that entail?" "Combat," Marin said, "or exile from Elendari space." Arden blinked. "Combat with her?" "Saris Calith," Captain Solari murmured, "has won 34 tactical duels." Arden swallowed hard. "And the other option?" he asked. Marin hesitated. "Proceed with the path of trials." "No," Arden whispered. "God." "Yes," Marin said. 5 trials. They test truth, courage, unity, patience, and declaration. If Saris accepts your vow, you must complete these together. If either of you fails, the bond dissolves and dishonor follows." Captain Solari shook her head. "Arden, this is absurd, ridiculous, but it is also real. You need to decide." "I need time," Arden said weakly. "You have 6 days," Marin replied. "The vow must be accepted or rejected within 7. Until then, avoid Saris except for essential duty." Avoiding her, right, sure, on a vessel with 12 decks. Arden left the office in a daze. The corridor lights felt too bright. His heartbeat echoed in his ears. A compliment, one compliment. He stumbled into the lift, letting it carry him to his quarters. As soon as the door closed, he sank onto the bunk and buried his head in his hands. "Breathtaking," he muttered. "Why would I say something like that?" Because it was true, and that terrified him more than anything. He barely slept that night. At 600, his console chimed. A message from Marin. "Begin cultural instruction. Report to Deck 5. Arden dragged himself there, exhausted. Marin waited in a small briefing chamber filled with Elendari hollow mandalas, shifting geometric star patterns representing emotion states. "We begin with understanding why your words held power," Marin said. For the next 3 hours, Arden learned, Elendari do not lie. Elendari do not compliment without meaning. Elendari do not acknowledge another's beauty unless they are willing to expose their soul light, equivalent to human emotional vulnerability. To call another breathtaking was not surface level. It meant, "You stop my breath because you are significant to me. I see you with truth, not pretense. I wish to draw nearer." Arden left the session reeling. Did he feel that? Yes, he felt it for months. But there was still the matter of Saris herself. What did she feel? On the 3rd day, they crossed paths accidentally outside the tactical wing. Arden froze, Saris froze. Her sigils dimmed to deep violet, emotion suppressed. "Commander," Arden said, voice barely steady. "Lieutenant Vale," she replied softly, silence stretched. Dangerous, fragile. He opened his mouth, but she lifted a hand. "Protocol forbids personal discourse," she said. Her voice was steady, but her eyes flickered with something he couldn't identify. "I require time to consider your vow." "Of course," he said quickly. "Take all the time you need." She nodded once, then turned away, her long stride echoing down the corridor. He watched her leave, chest tight. He had 6 days to decide whether to stand by a vow he never intended to make. She had 6 days to decide whether to accept a bond she never asked for. Neither of them slept well. On the 4th day, Arden sent a single, formal message through Marin's approved channel. "Commander Saris, I do not wish to pressure your choice, only to clarify that what I spoke was honest, even if I did not know the meaning behind it. I meant no disrespect. Your decision will be honored." Arden Vale. Saris's reply came hours later. "Meeting permitted. Protocol requires witnesses. Tomorrow, 1500. Chamber C. Arden exhaled shakily. This was it. He had no idea whether he would leave that meeting free or bound. When the time came, the chamber felt colder than usual. Saris sat across from him, guarded but not hostile. Marin and two Elendari tacticians observed silently. Saris spoke first. "Your vow confuses me," she said, "because your gaze upon me has been persistent for months, yet I believed it observational, detached. Now I learn it was something else." Arden swallowed. "It wasn't detached, I just didn't know how to say anything." "And yet," she said, voice softer, "when I asked, you spoke truth." He nodded. Her sigils flickered, emotion battling discipline. "I must ask directly, do you withdraw the vow?" He saw the trap. Withdraw right arrow insult. Do not withdraw right arrow commitment. "No," he said, her eyes widened. "I won't withdraw," he continued. "I meant what I said. The seventh day arrived like a quiet storm. No alarms, no warnings, just a sharp awareness in Arden's chest that something irreversible would happen before nightfall. The astral reach moved smoothly through the Veil sector, but inside Arden nothing felt steady. At 900, he attended his shift. At 1100, he tried to eat. At 1330, he gave up any attempt at functioning normally. At 1400, the summons came. Observation Chamber A formal assembly. Commander Saris Calith presiding. Arden felt his pulse spike. The chamber was larger than he expected. A vaulted room, amber lighting reflecting off polished alloy floors. Humans and Elendari officers lined the perimeter. A ceremonial platform had been erected at the center. This wasn't a conversation, this was a verdict. Marin Thale stood near the platform, sigils resting in neutral blue. When Arden approached, Marin gave a low nod. "Whatever happens," the liaison said softly, "speak truth. The Elendari honor truth above all." Arden wished he felt reassured. Then the chamber dimmed slightly, signaling her arrival. Commander Saris Calith stepped inside. Conversation halted. Every officer, human and Elendari alike, turned to look at her. She wore Elendari formal attire, deep indigo fabric flowing from her shoulders like liquid starlight, her bioluminescent sigils brighter than Arden had ever seen. They shimmered in steady, deliberate patterns, controlled but intense. She was beautiful, painfully, impossibly beautiful, and today she looked almost fragile beneath the strength. Saris ascended the platform. Her gaze swept the room once, then found Arden S. She held it for a heartbeat, maybe two, before shifting her expression to ceremonial neutrality. "Begin recording," Marin announced. A soft chime filled the chamber. "Commander Saris Calith," Marin said, "you have reached the seventh day. You must now give formal answer. Will you accept Lieutenant Arden Vale's vow of choosing?" Silence wrapped the room. Saris inhaled, her chest rising with quiet intensity. She faced Arden fully. "Lieutenant Vale," she said, her voice clear, carrying effortlessly across the chamber. "For many cycles, I believed myself uninterested in connection. Duty was my path. Command was my focus. Personal entanglements," her sigils flickered faintly, were complications I did not invite. Arden's hands tightened at his sides. Saris continued, "When you spoke your words, your vow, I believed them impossible, mistaken, and yet my reaction was not what I anticipated." Her golden eyes softened just barely. "I was moved." A murmur spread through the Elendari officers. Saris held up a hand, steadying herself. "You looked at me as though I were remarkable, not exotic, not untouchable, simply remarkable. And that truth," her voice trembled, "shook foundations I thought unchangeable." Arden felt the room disappear around him. In that moment there was only her. She exhaled slowly. "I accept your vow." A collective breath escaped the chamber. Humans gasped. Elendari emitted harmonic tones of shock. Saris continued louder formally. "I accept the vow of choosing. I choose to enter the path of trials with Lieutenant Arden Vale. Let the trial rites commence." Marin's sigils flared bright in ceremonial approval. "So witnessed, so recorded." He turned to Arden. "Lieutenant Vale, do you affirm your vow once more, now knowing its meaning?" Arden stepped forward. His voice did not waver. "I do. My admiration was real when I spoke it, and it is real now. I stand by it." Saris's patterns warmed subtly. Marin raised a hand. "Then the first trial begins tomorrow, the revealing. Prepare your truths." The assembly dispersed. Officers whispered excitedly. Some humans congratulating Arden, Elendari watching him with wary curiosity. But Saris remained on the platform, expression unreadable. Arden approached slowly. When he stopped a respectful distance away, Saris spoke first. I did not make this choice lightly. I know, Arden said. You have thrown my certainty into disarray. Likewise. A faint, very faint, curve touched the corner of her lips. Perhaps that is reason enough. They stood in quiet, a strange warmth forming between them. Arden cleared his throat. Why did you accept? Saris looked down, letting her fingers brush the glowing sigils at her wrist. A gesture he'd learned meant vulnerability. Because your vow was honest, she said softly. And because I found that I did not wish you to withdraw it. His chest tightened. She looked up at him again. Tomorrow, during the revealing, you must speak your deepest fear, your truth. I will hear it. The censors will confirm it. I understand. And I will speak mine. Her voice lowered. Be prepared. What you learn of me will not be comfortable. I'm not afraid of knowing you. Saris's sigils glowed silver for a moment, astonishment. You should rest, she said finally. Truth drains even the strongest. She began to step past him, but stopped beside him long enough for her voice to drop to a whisper. Arden Vale, your vow was not mistake, not to me. Then she walked away, leaving him standing alone in a room that suddenly felt too small, too quiet, too changed. He pressed a hand to his chest, feeling the resonance of her words. Tomorrow he would face the revealing. Tomorrow he would expose the deepest corners of himself. Tomorrow everything between them would either strengthen or break. But Arden knew one thing with absolute clarity. The chamber prepared for the revealing was unlike anything Arden had seen aboard the Astral Reach. It was circular, smooth, and quiet in a way that felt deliberate. Every surface curved, every panel dimmed to soft indigo. Elendari architecture favored harmony over hardness, and this room pulsed with it. At the center stood two seats facing each other, close enough that knees might touch. Above them floated a suspended crystalline device, Elendari Truth Sense latticework, its many facets flickering faintly with prismatic light. Saris waited beside the chairs, her posture impeccably composed but her sigils dimmed to deep violet, the color of internal tension. When Arden entered, her gaze swept over him once, evaluating but softened by something gentler. Good morning, he said quietly. Truth Day morning, she corrected, voice even. A significant distinction. Arden offered a faint smile. Are you ready? No, she admitted, but I am prepared. Marin entered behind him, accompanied by High Officer Elira Vess, an Elendari elder whose sigils glowed with ceremonial authority. Elira gestured to the seats. Please sit. The revealing cannot begin until both participants surrender pretense. Arden sat first, Saris followed. The proximity startled him. He could see every subtle detail in her skin, each shifting filament of light beneath the surface that responded to her heartbeat. Elira activated the crystalline lattice. It descended to hover inches above their heads. This device does not read thoughts, she explained. Only truth density. Lies will resonate as discord, truth as harmony. Speak clearly, speak fully. Arden inhaled, Saris's eyes held his. Begin, Elira said. Arden spoke first. My deepest fear, he said, feeling the words form from a place beyond conscious control, is that I am fundamentally inadequate. Saris's eyes widened, the lattice glowing a soft, confirming blue above him. I'm not afraid of failure, he continued. I can fail and recover, but I fear that no matter how hard I try, no matter how much discipline I have, I'll never be enough for the people who rely on me. That I'll fall short in ways that can't be fixed, that there is something missing in me. The lattice brightened, and I fear that if I let someone close, they'll eventually see those flaws, see that I can't be what they hoped, and that they'll leave, or that I'll disappoint them so deeply it'll break something between us. Silence settled, Saris's breath trembled softly. It was the first time he had seen her visibly shaken. That is truth, Elira confirmed. Spoken clearly. Arden let out a slow breath. Saris, that's me, that's the worst of me. He felt exposed, stripped, but he didn't look away. Elira turned to Saris. Commander, your truth. Saris closed her eyes for a long moment, steadying herself. When she opened them, the emotion in her gaze was unmistakably raw. My deepest fear, she said quietly, is that I am unlovable. Arden felt something twist painfully inside him. The lattice shimmered bright blue, validating. Saris continued, not unloved, my people respect me, my family cares for me. But I fear that no one will ever look upon all that I am, my intensity, my discipline, my focus, and choose it willingly. I fear that I am too much of what others avoid and too little of what they desire. Her sigils dimmed painfully. I fear that every vow that might have come to me was withheld because others saw something, she hesitated, voice tightening, fundamentally wrong with me. The lattice flared in brilliant confirmation. Saris stared at the floor as though bracing for impact. Arden didn't hesitate. Saris, he said gently, there is nothing wrong with you, nothing. Her gaze lifted, shimmering faintly with disbelief. You are disciplined, yes. Intense, yes. Focused, yes, but those aren't flaws, they're strengths. Qualities people admire, qualities I admire. Her patterns flickered, silver, violet, gold, all merging chaotically. You can't possibly know. I do, Arden interrupted. I've watched you for months, and not because of your beauty, though that's obvious. I watched because I saw someone extraordinary, someone principled, someone who carries herself like she knows exactly who she is. He leaned closer, letting the truth fill every word. You're not unlovable, Saris. You just haven't met someone brave enough to see you clearly. Her breath caught, the lattice glowed white-hot, pure truth. Elira stepped forward. The revealing is complete. Both truths are accepted. You have passed the first trial. Saris inhaled shakily. Her sigils fluttered, disorganized. Arden reached out instinctively and hesitated. She closed the distance herself. Her fingers touched his. Light rippled through her patterns at the contact, warm gold spreading through violet like dawn breaking through storm clouds. Thank you, she whispered, for speaking with such courage. You too. She nodded. The next trial begins in 2 days, the challenge. Arden attempted a smile. That sounds ominous. It is, Saris admitted, but today proved something vital. What? Her voice softened, that there is truth between us. And that truth is strong. A quiet hum pulsed through the room as the crystalline lattice powered down. Saris stood, graceful as always, but her sigils glowed with new light, warm, bright, alive. Rest, Arden. The challenge trial took place in the astral reach's lower tactical arena, a cavernous space usually reserved for emergency drills and combat simulations. Today, however, it had been reshaped by Elendari architecture modules, glowing crystalline barriers, simulated terrain plates, shifting platforms bathed in violet light. Arden recognized one thing immediately. This was not training. This was a proving ground. Marin stood at the edge of the arena, hands clasped behind him, sigils glowing in firm ceremonial orange. Lieutenant Vale. Commander Calith, he said, projecting for the assembled witnesses around the observation deck. The challenge evaluates the Protector's instinct, courage, and resolve. One partner is temporarily disabled. The other must defend them from escalating threats. Arden frowned, temporarily disabled. Saris stood beside him, serene. It will not harm me, merely diminish my combat ability. That's not the part I'm concerned about. She tilted her head slightly, a small gesture of warmth. Your concern is appreciated. Marin raised an arm. Commander Calith stepped forward. Saris walked into a beam of pale blue light descending from the ceiling. As it washed over her, her sigils dimmed, her pupils contracted, and her posture softened, losing some of the sharp, fluid readiness that usually defined her. She exhaled, steady but altered. My tactical precision is reduced. Strength lowered, reflexes halved. Arden felt something cold coil in his chest. Seeing her diminished, someone so perfectly composed and capable felt wrong. Lieutenant Vale, Marin continued, your task. Protect your partner through 3 escalating phases. You cannot retreat. You cannot abandon her. Each threat will respond dynamically to your choices. Arden's pulse kicked up. How dangerous. Marin's patterns pulsed once. Sincere. That meant enough to kill if he failed. The arena reconfigured violently, crystal panels rising, barriers shifting, turning the floor into a jagged labyrinth of glowing edges and shadowed corners. Saris stood beside him. Remember what I taught you, she said quietly. You taught me 3 words in Elendari, Arden muttered. Important ones. You taught me lift, faster, and duck. Then use them wisely. A sharp tone echoed across the arena. Phase 1 began. The walls shimmered, and 3 drone constructs dropped from the ceiling, multi-legged, predatory, glowing red at their cores. They moved immediately toward Saris, ignoring Arden completely. Protector's instinct. Arden didn't hesitate. He moved between Saris and the drones, raising his shock baton. Stay behind me. Saris bristled. I am not helpless. You said your reflexes are halved. She hesitated, then nodded once, stepping back. The first drone lunged. Arden parried, sparks flying. The second skittered around, aiming low, forcing him to rotate and block at a bad angle. Pain shot through his wrist. He ignored it. The third sprang for Saris. Arden pivoted, slammed his shoulder into its side, and drove his baton into its undercarriage. The core flickered and died. Two more came at him simultaneously. He ducked under one, shouting in Elendari, "Faster!" Saris responded instinctively, stepping aside just in time to avoid a collapsing platform. She watched him with something like awe. Arden finished the remaining drones with breathless determination. The arena hummed, Phase 1 complete. Phase 2 began instantly. The lighting dimmed. Shadows stretched unnaturally. From the dark emerged humanoid constructs, taller, faster, coordinated. They moved with frightening precision, surrounding them in widening circles. Saris stiffened. Arden, these are pattern adaptives. They learn. Great. Do not let them flank you. These are your people's trials. Why would you make learning robots? It seemed logical. The constructs attacked. Arden fought harder than he ever had in his life. Sweat stung his eyes. His arms ached. Every movement was reaction, instinct, survival. He planted himself in front of Saris, blocking every strike aimed her way. When constructs tried to break toward her, he intercepted, took hits meant for her, forced his body to move even when pain threatened to slow him. One construct caught his ribs, a deep, bruising blow. He gasped but didn't fall. Another reached for Saris's arm. Arden lunged, grabbing the construct's wrist and using sheer adrenaline to twist and break the joint. Sparks spat from its broken limb. Saris's eyes widened. Arden, no one touches you. It wasn't bravado. It wasn't performance. It was primal, pure. Her sigils burst into warm gold. He drove forward, dismantling the remaining constructs with furious precision until the last one fell smoking onto the arena floor. Phase 2 complete. Arden's breaths came ragged. His hands trembled. Saris reached for his shoulder, steadying. You fought as if I mattered. You do. Her expression softened, not with surprise this time, but with something deeper. Something like recognition, like she'd been waiting to hear those words her entire life without realizing it. A final tone sounded. Phase 3. The arena shook. A hulking construct, 2 meters taller than Saris, plated with shimmering alloy, descended from above. It radiated power. This was no drone, no adaptive unit. This was a Varan-class Guardian. Arden, Saris whispered urgently, this is too much. Humans are not meant to face these alone. This is an Elendari-level threat. He stepped in front of her again, baton raised, ignoring the pain in every muscle. You're not alone. He charged. The Guardian moved like a falling star, fast, brutal. Arden barely dodged the first strike. The second clipped his arm, numbingly hard. He didn't stop. He slammed his baton into the Guardian's core, sparks flying uselessly. It struck him again. Arden staggered, nearly fell. Saris called out, Arden, stop, you'll break. He spat blood and grinned weakly, not planning to. The Guardian raised its massive arm for a crushing blow. Arden hurled himself forward, not away, into the strike, sliding under its guard and driving his entire weight behind a final thrust of the baton directly into the exposed joint beneath its chest plating. The Guardian froze, then collapsed thunderous. Arden fell with it, landing hard. The arena fell silent. Saris rushed to him, dropping to her knees, lifting his head with trembling hands. Arden, look at me. He blinked at her through pain-blurred eyes. Did I pass? Her voice broke. You protected me as though my life were your own. It is, he whispered, surprising even himself. Her breath caught. She leaned closer, forehead touching his, sigils glowing like sunrise. You fought with heart fire, Arden Vale. I have never seen its equal. Marin's voice echoed across the arena. Trial complete, Protector's instinct proven. Phase 3 exceeded expectations. Arden tried to sit. Saris stopped him. Recovery after the challenge took longer than Arden expected. But Saris stayed near his side through all of it. Not constantly, never unprofessionally, but always near enough that he felt her presence like a quiet, steady pulse. Elendari medics regenerated most of the bruising within hours, but they could not regenerate the part of him that ached every time Saris stepped out of the room. He didn't say anything. She didn't either. But something had shifted, undeniably, irrevocably. 2 days later, they walked side by side down the corridor toward the final trial, the declaration. This one was the most important, not a test of fear, not a test of battle. Not endurance, not unity under pressure. This was truth spoken publicly, with witnesses, with the full power of the bond behind it. The trial that determined whether their union would become official. Saris walked with composed grace, but her sigils glimmered with emotional turbulence. Silver, violet, gold, all weaving together like unspoken questions. Arden slowed. Saris. She stopped, turned. Her eyes were luminous, soft in ways he still wasn't used to seeing. I need you to know, he said quietly. No matter how today goes, I don't regret any of it. Not the vow, not the trials, not a single moment. Her breath caught a small inhale that tightened her shoulders. Arden, you do not know what I will say. It doesn't matter. I chose this path because it brought me closer to you. Her sigils shimmered with startled light. For once, she didn't have an immediate reply. They entered the ceremonial chamber. The entire senior crew, Human and Elendari, had gathered. The space was filled with soft amber illumination, bioluminescent runes spiraling across the walls. At the center stood two tall crystalline pylons glowing faintly between the two of them. High Officer Elira Vess raised her voice. The final trial begins now. The declaration. Each partner must speak why the other is worthy of admiration, intent, and unity. Truth sensors active. All words must be genuine. Arden stepped forward first. Saris's gaze remained fixed on him, steady, expectant, vulnerable. He spoke without notes, without rehearsing, straight from the place inside him he had tried to protect for years. Saris, he began, I admire you because you are strength without cruelty. Because your discipline isn't about perfection, it's about responsibility. You care more deeply than you let anyone see, and you carry the weight of that care with dignity. Her sigils brightened. I admire you because your mind works like starlight, fast, brilliant, dazzling in ways I could never predict. You look at a tactical board and see 10 layers of meaning, but you never use that brilliance to belittle others. You use it to protect them. The truth sensors glowed brighter. I admire you because you let me see the version of you you never show anyone, the one who doubts, who fears being unlovable, who believes she's too much. He shook his head softly. You're not too much, Saris. You're more than enough. You always were. Her golden eyes widened, shimmering. I admire you because every time I look at you, I see exactly what I said the first day, something breathtaking. Something extraordinary, not alien, not distant, not unattainable. He smiled faintly. Just you, and that's more than enough reason to stand here now. Elira nodded, truth fully confirmed. Saris inhaled, slowly, deeply, her turn. She stepped forward, facing Arden completely. The room went silent. Even the air seemed to hold its breath. Arden Vale, she began, voice soft but steady. I admire you because when you spoke your vow, you did so without agenda, without expectation, without knowing what it meant. That sincerity is rare among my people and even rarer among yours. Her sigils flowed into warm gold. I admire you because when confronted with consequences you could not anticipate, you did not retreat. You stood by your truth, not because it was safe, but because it was real. The truth sensors pulsed bright. I admire you because you see me, not the commander, not the Elendari diplomat's daughter, not the tactical prodigy. You see the woman beneath all of those layers. You see the parts of me I long believed unworthy of admiration. She stepped closer. I admire you because in the challenge you fought with a fire I have never witnessed, not to impress me, not to survive, but because you refused to let harm come to me. You protected me with your whole being. Her voice softened, trembled. I admire you, she whispered, because when I feared I was unlovable, you looked at me and saw someone worth choosing. And your choice awakened something in me I thought dead. The truth sensors shifted from blue to white, the highest confirmation. She reached out, touching his chest lightly with her fingertips. You are worthy, Arden Vale, of respect, of trust, of companionship, and of me. Silence fell over the chamber. High Officer Elira spoke. Truth declared, trial passed. Arden released a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. Saris stepped even closer, so close he could feel the warmth of her glowing skin. Arden, she said, voice barely above a whisper, if you wish it, the bonding ceremony may begin. He swallowed the sudden tightness in his throat. I wish it. Her eyes softened, stars drifting inside molten gold. Then kneel. He did. She raised her hand, drawing a glowing line of light down the bridge of his nose, a traditional Elendari union mark. Warmth spread through him, pulsing with her heartbeat. Rise, she said. When he did, she took his hand slowly, deliberately, weaving her fingers through his in a gesture Elendari only gave to bonded partners. From this moment, she said, your light and mine are joined. He squeezed her hand gently. Saris, from my side, that's a yes. A soft laugh escaped her, a sound so rare it felt like a gift. Elira raised her arms. The bond is witnessed, the trial's complete, two cultures united through truth. Let this union stand as symbol of what may yet be built between our peoples. Applause broke from the humans. Harmonic tones echoed from the